Why am I live on here? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Listen, I thought I was going to be live on my other device, so I apologize. So peace to the east, the west, and north, and south. I'm not even ready. Okay, so give me a moment, family. I was supposed to go live on my other device. I want to see if I can actually do it. So I'm going to close this for a second and open up my other device because I don't want to be live on my phone. Hold on. So I guess I'm going to be live on this. So peace, peace, YouTube. This is Floroon coming to you today with another topic of discussion. I apologize. Let me get set up because I wasn't intending to be on this. Is my volume down? Can you guys hear me okay? I'm sorry. Let me raise my volume. I wasn't supposed to be on my phone, so this is a little odd. I kind of made the stream on my phone. All right. I think I'm good. All right. Is everyone good? Can you see me okay? Okay. I apologize. So peace to the east, the west, the north, and the south. Okay. So we're getting into another topic of discussion. I wanted to add a little audio. That's why I didn't want to do this on my phone because I had audio that I wanted to add to it. But we can do that another time. So as you see, I wanted to discuss the reptilian agenda, which has always been linked to a gay agenda. And I want to kind of really speak about that being a falsetto as a cover-up to an anti-feminine objective. Okay, so we're going to get into the reptilian agenda. Now, there's different sects of reptilians, okay? Let me say hi to everyone. Peace to Kay, peace to Nanaru. Is Salu here? Is Saki here? I think everyone else is here. Oh, and let me just state this. I apologize for yesterday. Okay, there's a couple things I have to do before we start. Let me turn off my other live stream. Okay. Hey, Yafi. Hey, Vivian. Let me just apologize for yesterday. Listen, I didn't mean to look. Sometimes on a live stream, I don't know how I visually look, and because this is my body, I'm not as sensitive to how it appears to you because it's my body. I walk around with this body every day. So what appears to you to be like over the top or being very bustacious isn't really what it appears to me. So I just want to apologize for anyone that might have been offended. Sometimes with me, you just have to be mindful. I live in Florida. I don't look as busty in person as I may appear on the screen. And it isn't intended to allure you. I'm talking to mostly women most of the time. So just to let you know, I know I shouldn't apologize, but, I just think a lot of times there's a lot of, as much as people think that there's this shaming for people who don't have a lot of bust, there's a lot of shaming for women who are naturally busty. And it's always been my whole life. So it's very difficult sometimes for me to gear what is appropriate for you, because in my world, how I'm physically looking isn't obscene. Okay, even the thing that I was wearing yesterday, I walked around all day. It was fine. It doesn't look as, delicious as it may have looked on the screen to you. So I apologize for anyone that might have offended. Sometimes it's better with me, just if you think that I'm showing too much, then because sometimes I don't pay attention, or I try to keep the camera up. I'm making sure I cover up today. Just make sure you listen to me as opposed to looking. So it isn't to offend anyone or to allure anyone. I like the mate that I have, and I want to make sure that I put that out there. Okay. Okay, I know our sea stars and sun stars don't really care, but there were people on yesterday who really were like over the top, and I know how it looked. I did look, and it looked a little out there. It really did, and it wasn't intended. Sometimes I just talk and I don't pay attention because it's my body. Anyway, so and I'm a mother, so yes, I agree. For me, I think I look more like a nourished. I think as a mother, I look more motherly busty. To be honest, I feel more motherly. I think that's how I look a lot of times. All right, thank you, Carlos. I know you guys see me. Some of you see me in person. It's not that serious. Okay, so let's start to get into the conversation. Let me put a PSA out there. This is important for anyone who's home with any little people, any young children, anyone. Please, I know we should free the boobs. Carolina's starting already. Don't get me started. We'll start burning bras live. For anyone who have little ones, I want to kick that off. This conversation is going to go left really quickly. So make sure if you're a mommy, you're a stay-at-home mommy, or you have the little ones around and you think that they can interpret what we're talking about, I just ask that you put earbuds on, or, have them do a coloring book or something inside another room, just while we have this conversation. This is going to be really, really non-child friendly, okay? Because I'm going to get graphic, and we're really going to get in discussion. And let me put another PSA out there. If you yourself are a gay male, this conversation may trigger you, okay? Because I'm going to get into a real conversation about what the agenda is, and this ties into the gay male community more so than the gay female community. So if you feel like this, and it isn't, listen, this isn't a hit to anyone or a judgment, it's just the agenda that Willy Wonka has, and the reptilian agenda that is based in anti-woman antics in order to suppress the feminine on the planet, and also to subjugate her to forms of control and limitation, okay? So I've just put that out there, so if you feel like you're gonna be triggered, just say, Flurburn, I'll pass on this video and I'll move on, okay? And anyone can have an opinion about anything. This is just my opinion. Okay, so let's get into conversation. So I wanted to really discuss forms, and you've heard me talk about forms of the reptilian agenda. There's different forms of the agenda. We talk about the aspects of their agenda to suppress humanity, to make it less natural, terraform the planet, make it more cohesive to their type of species. We've talked about that, but I think a lot of times, as I'm talking to many of our brethren and our sistren about what's going on out here, I think we aren't fully aware of what is really the objective to a lot of these, higher tier. When I say higher tier, it just means that they're the more suppressive reptiles on the planet, and that's the draconians. And there's other forms of low field, reptilians that were geoengineered by your happy dandy Willy Wonka, the League of Doom, who have created low field, genetically homogenized low field reptiles, and I told you, they disseminated them in the hood, okay, and into the lower socioeconomical brown population in order to create a form of non-cohesiveness, abuses of women, suppression, and other unnatural behavioral patterns, okay? So the ultimate agenda, which I think people get confused about, is the agenda is not this is my personal opinion, it isn't a gay agenda. I think many are confused. It is an anti-woman agenda, a defiling of children agenda. Why do I say this? Let's give examples. On this planet now, every corner of the earth, one of the general consensus is my camera off? Okay. Can I adjust the camera? Is the camera shake? I'm sorry. It's hard because I have to hold it. I wasn't supposed to do it on the device. Is the camera okay, everyone? I have to hold it. Is it okay? I'm not showing anything, so there shouldn't be a problem. Is everything okay with the camera? Can you see me? Because someone said to adjust it. Is everything okay? Okay. All right, just making sure. It may shake a little bit. It may shake a little bit because it's in my hand. I don't have a holding thing. Like I said, I wasn't supposed to go live on my device. Okay, perfect. So as we see on four corners of the earth, we have a general behavioral consensus of the behavior of males with females on the earth. Now, let me state this before. We know, let's go back in history, because I want to kind of start so I don't get sidebarred. If anyone's coming in the room, please put a like on the video if you like the discussion, if you like having more of these discussions, to let me know that this is something that you want to hear more about. Please put a like, and that lets me know that this conversation is, applicable to the things that you want me to discuss. Okay. Yes, and for those coming in the room, thank you. Vivian's already stated, thank you, Vivian, just saying you might get triggered. This video is going to touch on many things that I think are highly inappropriate for children. Please don't have children in the room. And also, if you're a gay male, this might trigger you. I say this because I'm going to get into the reptilian agenda, which is interesting. I know it will trigger you based on a lot of the propelling and projecting of things that are unnatural for the healthiness of humanity that have been propaganded out there in order to lead us astray and also to make unhealthy dynamics between male and female relationships, okay? So every end of this earth, you'll see a general consensus of the abuses of women have been on the rise. The trafficking of women and children have become so systemically, so systemic in that it shows up so overwhelming that now you're starting to see even in very remote communities that there is some acknowledgement that women are being stolen or taken, being confiscated, and also children are being more molested by in-house by fathers, brothers, cousins, and what have you. So I want to go back, and then we could kind of go to the I'll come to the present. Okay, I want to go back a little bit because history is a good indication. History is a good indication of past behavior. I'm so all over the past behavior is a good indication of future behavior. Okay, and how we can start to heal ourselves or acknowledge and start to kind of transmute some of these negative, this negative propaganda or these negative agendas, or try to neutralize them, is by acknowledging the healthy homeostasis of a healthy planet. Okay, I acknowledge that we used to be one being on one planet. Okay, at one time, and if we go back far enough, previous to all of the colonization by other beings coming on the planet that come from more patriarchal, more asexual, or more neutralized sexes, when they came on the planet with women that were also one sex, what happened is that they genetically homogenized the original human female on the planet that was able to give birth through the process of parthenogenesis. And when they did so, they kind of fractured or split us into two, a male and a female. And you'll see that dynamic play out with the animals, with the insects. You always have a female base and a male base, and coming together, they're able to procreate and create life, and to be able to perpetuate their lineage, propel themselves and make themselves infinite beings by perpetuating themselves and creating generations of themselves that propel them forward into the future. Okay, okay, the word itself we'll get into. The word itself, gay, we got to get into that because that word has changed and shapeshifted from the past 60 years. Okay, gay in itself was also a word that was utilized. It was a word that meant happy, very, gleeful, gay. It's like, oh, he's such a gay, it's like gleeful and happy. So that word has shapeshifted itself. So we got to be careful with the semantics because a lot of times words change based on agendas as well. Okay. So back when we were split into two separate factions, and you'll see that play out, on this earth, majority of entities on this planet, in order to create life, they mate with male and female. That is a natural, healthy way that we perpetuate ourselves. But with the inception of a very hostile group of draconians and other types of low-field reptilians, they brought on their own concept of what's cohesive from their species point of view, and they had a lot of resentment and also a disdain for the feminine component on the planet. Now, let's state this. Mother Gaia is a female. She is a sentient being. I acknowledge that. That may not be something that you acknowledge, but I acknowledge our planet as being sentient, meaning she has life, she has feelings, she exudes an auric field that many of us feel, okay? And the beings that were coexisting on her planet, as far as the bipedal beings, were also feminine, female-based, and at the time, the planet was thriving because females in themselves, by the very nature of who they are intrinsically, are very nurturing, loving, catering, stewardesses of their mother, the divine mother, which is Mother Tiamat. Okay, and with the inception and the colonization of hostiles that came from another star system, and some came from closer arenas that came with a non-connectiveness to that feminine component, have always had a resentment and also a target on the feminine's disposition, okay? And because of their unnatural state to this planet, unnatural connection to Mother Tiamat, they are violators by the nature of what they do on their home planet of violating children. They see their own offspring as the same as an adult offspring. So the way that they embark on sex or expression of release or feeding energetically, they feel the same for a child, for adult. There is no differentiation between the tier of ages, okay, in their world. All right. So that being said, let's propel ourselves a little further, a little in the future when we do have male and females. Now, when males were created, the very nature of them being created to be cohesive with a female was to protect her, was to protect his offspring, to give, to bring resources and give a field of protection. That is what the divine male represents. And when he was created, he did just that. He perpetuated himself. He mated with a female. He was able to supply her with resources and protection, had a very close connectivity to her. There was more of a natural sense of connectivity with the female back when, as opposed to what we see futuristically now, which there is obviously a deterioration of the relationship between the male and female based on projections of a low-field reptilian type of breed that is bred into our species. And not only has it bred into it, it is projecting and trying to neutralize any connectivity to the female counterpart on this planet. So as we go a little further in the future, we see that there is a collapse of the family system, and we start to see that post. If we go a little further, you see that previously in every society has its collapse of the union between male and female. You see that happen and degrade over time with more inception, with more interbreeding with these species of anti-female in their very DNA. So many women will breed with some of these low-field reptiles, and they will give birth to males that are anti to the very females that they're supposed to mate with in order to perpetuate themselves, okay? So over time and over genetically homogenizing these entities, we start to breed with a very anti-feminine breed that ends up breeding a type of hostility towards the feminine on this planet, and also a breed that would also have unhealthy mating patterns of behavior, because if you aren't in understanding and understanding and overstanding, it isn't natural for a male to have sex with babies, okay? That is a very non-earthly type of behavior. It isn't natural for a male to have sex with his own offspring. That is an unnatural sexual behavior that comes from either traumatizing, either being traumatized or being birthed or being bred with non-empathetic species of beings. Any male who's engaged in having anal sex, and that is what he has a desire to do, that is unnatural. There isn't any species who would engage in having sex through the rectal cavity, because they would know that is an exit point and that is an expelling point, and it wouldn't be a desire. It wouldn't be something that they would desire, okay? That's an anti-human, anti-female disposition, okay? So these types of any male who thinks having sex with animals of any nature, whether it's sheep, dogs, what have you, that is an anti-nature, an anti-human, an anti-earthling disposition. And a male who's engaged in bestiality is anti-human, is anti-himself, okay? So that isn't natural. Any man who thinks it's okay to allow other men to violate the woman that is the mother of his child, or to be out of to be non-protective of his own offspring, and be anti to the mother of his children, that is anti-human. That is a non-human quality. Okay? Any male who thinks it's okay to have sex with corpses, engage in necrophilia, or to watch that and have any sort of allurement by it, that is very anti-nature. That is anti-human. Okay, why do I state these all lumped together? Because a lot of this behavior is being subconsciously perpetuated and propagandized in our today's society. How do you say that? So you say, oh, Flurboon, that is a judgment. How could you say that's true? That isn't something that's being propaganda. I will give you examples. When we look at the industry, like the beauty industry and the things that are being perpetuated as beautiful or to be desired, you start to see a very anti-human kind of perpetuation. When you see women that are very unhealthy looking, or, I'm not saying I'm healthy. Let me state this. This isn't a hit to anyone who's very thin. But when you see that the fashion industry will have walking corpses of women whose bones are, coming through their hips and walking as if they're walking bones, and having, tons of makeup to cover the bags because they're low in iron and they're deficient of nutrition, and that being perpetuated as a standard of beauty, and that being something that is being pushed out there and propelled out there as something that is desirable, that is a propaganda of necrophilia. Okay, that is them proponing that death is alluring and pushing it out there to basically mute your sensory and to cause you to have a attraction to corpses or to beings that are basically dead, the walking dead. Now, let me say this. I known some beautiful models. This isn't a hit to models, but I also know models that wouldn't eat, that had eating disorders, that were told when they were already 80 pounds that they were too heavy or weren't appropriate for certain fashion shows, especially during Fashion Week. Big up to our fashionistas. I know a lot of fashion designers, people who participate in Fashion Week. I've known personally, and I'm from New York, so I come from that life too. I've known models that were 85 pounds, soaking wet, thin, tall as a rail, who were told that they needed to drop 5 to 10 pounds in order to be contracted to walk on the runway, or to walk in Fashion Week. Okay, I personally witnessed this myself when girls will go on go-sees, because a lot of times, like I said, Flirtburn is about that life. Remember, I'm a woman of a certain age, and I was part of New York at the time when in the industry, you go with your homegirls, especially in college, they're going to a go-see, you may go with them, and you have these gay males who will critique women about their bodies and tell them how disgusting they look, and tell them that they look too fat and they're not good enough to be walking. And these are young ladies having men who don't like women critiquing them and telling them that they're not good enough. And this is an issue that also is a perpetuation in the reptilian agenda, is you will have men who don't like women who are sitting in positions of judgment, whether it's judges, whether it's sitting on these fashion carpets, whether it's people that are heading, especially it has to do with fashion and makeup. You have men that don't like women, that have a very anti-disposition to women, who sit in judgment of them and are heinous and hateful and scorned and jealous, and will treat these women like garbage because they have in themselves a disposition of, what's going on? Okay, is everyone okay? Listen, let me stop for a minute. Like I said, there is going to be some triggering happening. This is not about gay men, so to speak, but it's about an agenda that's being propagandized. Now, most of our famille who are gay are not engaged in this because they're not in dispositions of power where they can infringe on you. We're talking about the top tiers and what they do to subjugate women and how they utilize this as a tool in order to make the droves of sleeping, zombies go into a certain direction and to have a certain feeling about women. Okay, so this is going to be, listen, if you feel a certain way, if you are triggered by this, by all means, you have a right to feel what you feel. But this isn't a hit to those who are healthy, have a healthy disposition, who haven't any hate in their heart, who haven't hurt or subjugated anyone to harsh behavior based on their disposition. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about the top tiers of people that are not even human, and subhumans that are propaganding unhealthy lifestyles and propelling certain behavioral patterns to subjugate, abuse, and destroy the feminine component on this planet, and also are anti to the general family, the disposition of the healthy family dynamics in order to raise healthy children. Okay, so this is the reptilian agenda. It isn't a gay agenda. So if that helps, I will say this. It isn't a gay agenda. You'll hear people say, oh, there's a gay agenda. It isn't a gay agenda. It is an anti-feminine agenda. It is an anti-family agenda. It is an anti-healthy children agenda. They aren't us. They are another species. Okay? So when we go into, so I was talking about we're going into the fashion industry, and I've seen plenty of times when you had gay males being put in positions to be anti to females. And this was this position they were put in by the system, a reptilian system that was meant to subjugate and to humiliate the feminine component on this planet, and to propaganda for healthy physical imagery within the females. Okay, so a lot of times you would see these beautiful, lovely, healthy young ladies, tall, lean, and then they would go into, like I said, my girlfriend was 85 pounds, beautiful, tall, lean, and thin, rail thin. And she was an eater, she liked food, and was told when going into a go-see that she had to lose 10 pounds, 5 to 10 pounds, in order to be seen qualified walking in an industry. So this is another form of propaganda to further perpetuate a form of, as I say, as a form of necrophilia. Okay, making corpses or women that were almost dead look like corpses, or unhealthy, making them seem sexually appropriate, or sexually make them alluring sexually to the populace. Okay, so that was one aspect where you see the reptilian agenda perpetuate itself, and it utilizes gay males as its gateway and its directives in order to subjugate women, the very women that they aren't engaged with physically. And this is what I'm saying. I think it's highly unhealthy for males to be in any disposition of judgment of a female's body, her sexual organs, her disposition, by the nature of us being so very different hormonally, physically, mentally. It is a form of subjugation, and it's a form of abuse, especially coming in from a patriarchal standpoint, where you have men dominating in all aspects of society, and the aspect of society that they shouldn't be even a party to, fashion, makeup, things like that. You have men also inserted, especially men that don't like women, inserted into those industry that have a certain disposition of hatred and anti to that feminine component, and like hateration towards them, that they abuse women in those industries. Okay, so we go into that aspect. We talk about how the reptilian agenda is also playing itself in how the dynamics of the family has been driven apart based on another form of the industry, the music industry, which
perpetually sets out a tone, a vibratory tone through music, especially the hip hop community, which is the biggest form of mind control, mind control that sets forth a frequency of anti-feminine. If you listen to any of the music, that's why you always hear me on IG playing old school songs, songs that are empowering. If you listen to any of the hip hop, all they talk about is smashing women, boning women, getting as many etches on their belt as possible, how many women that they want to have sex up the behind, how they just looking at her behind. Now, let me set this clear again. The reptilian agenda isn't a gay agenda. It is an anti-feminine. And by perpetuating a behind, can I say this? I don't curse. I don't want to curse. A fess, we say fess or behind, bum bum. Can I say bum bum? Bum bum culture, okay, a bum bum culture. You know what I'm talking about. I don't want to use the A word because I don't think it's appropriate. A bum bum culture, that is a homosexual culture that it's perpetuating. There wasn't a time, that's come within the last 30 years where, because the prison system has become part of a primary basis of a lot of brown men's world, whether their father's been in jail and imprisoned, their brothers, their uncles, their grandfathers. The prison system has become part of the culture of brown people because there's been obviously an agenda to make sure that children from school to pipeline, where a lot of brown males have been placed in prison systems, whether for selling marijuana, little things, maybe little fights or gripes, whatever have you, whether it's justified to a heightened or lowest degree. There's been an agenda to make sure that they place males on top of males to also solidify this reptilian type of behavior. So what they do is they pull away males from females, incarcerate them with other males that don't like females, that are more homosexually based on maybe being violated from a child, maybe that's just their general disposition, and they put men on top of men in prison systems, and then they give them a host of fluorination. Also, I don't know if many of you know this, and I will speak about this, and that's why I say, please, if you're coming into this room, this is something that's going to bother some people. The truth always has a level of pain to it, but this has to be discussed because we have to realize there's a lot of anti-feminine jargon that has taken place on this planet by non-species that isn't in a cohesion with feminine energy. It has destroyed our planet. It is destroying the family dynamics. It hates women, and it thinks it's okay to have sex with animals and children, and we're discussing it today. Okay, so we're going to talk about the mass incarceration of brown men, and how it's caused a systemic changing and morphing men into men that aren't in cohesion with mating with females anymore, and how also in the industry, and I've noticed this within the last 10 years, the airlines, the banks, all of the corporations are only hiring black feminine men, males that are quote unquote what they consider to be gay, because they want to neutralize how brown males, carbon males appear to the populace by feminizing them and making it more acceptable to have these type of males as the primary acceptable male to have around. And also it's a play on your subconscious if you have feminine brown males around all the time in industries. And like I said, I've taken the plane, I fly a lot. All I've seen is feminine brown males, gay brown males that they hire. They aren't hiring any tall, virile men who like to mate with females. They're only hiring males who like to mate with other males as a way to play on the populace's mind to make that more acceptable, and also to depreciate the way that a brown male is perceived in society. So it's a form of clowning brown males, and also setting a tone that that's the acceptable brown male that will propel or be excelled in society. And it's also a form of causing an undertone of anti-female rhetoric, meaning that these are the type of males that we will accept. Males that don't like their own brown females, males that don't mate with females, and it's a form of subconscious attacking of the feminine counterpart as well, okay? Because if it wasn't that, they would hire both. They would hire males that are very feminine, and they would hire males that are very masculine. Why they don't do that is because there is an agenda, and it isn't a gay agenda, it is an anti-feminine agenda. Okay, so, let's go back to the pipeline. So with the brown community and a lot of, I'm going to speak to a lot of the mommies here as a mother, and this is coming from love to my mommies. You must stop feeding your boys soy. Listen to me. The agenda of the reptilians is to feminize, and it's not feminizing, it is actually to make the males have a non-connectivity and a non-sexual attraction to females. You must stop giving your boys soy and plastic bottles. I went to Walmart yesterday to pick up, because sometimes you can pick up tape. I saw a young brown woman, probably Latino, Dominicano, my Latino family, I'm talking to you as well, going and picking up all these animal crackers, all these, those sippy juices, those sweet juices. They all are encased with high fructose corn syrup, which is a suppression of testosterone, and also soy in every single wheat product, every cookie, every shampoo. Soy is entrenched in every part of the society. You must be vigilant with your boys, because we won't have masculine boys anymore. And if you think I'm lying, look at the spike of males that are brown that don't mate with females anymore. This is in the last 30 years, I have seen a spike of brown males who aren't cohesive and aren't mating with their brown female counterparts. The prison system isn't helping. And also the overwhelming of estrogen. Mothers, if you aren't nursing your baby boys, you mustn't give them soy or rice, arsenic. You listen to me, it's coming from love. This isn't telling you that if you're a gay male, you're wrong. You have a choice to sleep with who you want to be. But if I tell you that there's an agenda that these reptilians have created in order to take away from any strong, virile men that actually want to mate with their female counterparts, then you will understand that you are being neutralized. You are being subjugated to mind control programs that are perpetuating an unhealthy non-sexual connectivity between males and females. And you are being genocidally traumatized by chemicals that are being feeded into your waterways. Now, the prison system, I think I didn't go in here. I won't say, I got some intel. And part of this video is coming from that. I got some intel from someone who was part of that prison pipeline, a couple of gentlemen, and I found it really disconcerting, and I realized that the agenda has gone way too far. The prison system is not only putting, and this for males out here hustling and doing your thing, or, getting involved and getting scrappy on the road, this is something that should scare you. See, back in the days, in order to scare our boys into staying out of the prison system, they used to show a show called Scare Straight with the tossed salad man. I don't know if many of you of a certain age. I don't know if some of you are a certain age, any of the mommies on here, daddies, maybe in their mid-30s. I think as much as mid-30s to, I think, about 40, early 40s. I think many of you remember they would show us the tossed salad man in school, in high school, and he would talk about and okay, let's just put a disclaimer on here. Please put a link on the video because it's already gone left. And make sure there aren't any babies in the room. I'm about to go left, and we're going to get graphic here because I think you need to hear this. The tossed salad man would talk about having oral sex with men anally. Like he would eat their behinds and have oral sex with him. That tossed salad means he would put his mouth in their anal cavity, and that was a form of sex, and he would force men to do that if they weren't cohesive for it. I think some of you remember. Oh, you remember that 52? Okay, so maybe they went a little further. So 52. You guys remember this? So a lot of boys were frightened I remember guys were like, "Oh snap!" No, the toss. Now, if you show that video today, you would find that you would have a different reaction. The boys are more susceptible to that kind of infiltration. Like I said, they are pouring out. They are basically changing boys' disposition by making it standard for them to see effeminate men that aren't virile, and aren't mating with females, and putting that out there in corporations. And like I said, I've flown how many times? I've flown at least 20 times in the last year. And on every flight that I've taken on, I've taken a flight on Frontier, I've taken a flight on Spirit Airlines, I've taken a flight on Delta, I've taken a flight on, what's my, I forgot my Brazilian flight. Oh, I've taken a flight on Delta, and on every, listen family, that's how you know it's an agenda. On every single flight, I have only seen gay brown males. Now, why do I not bring up gay lunar males? Because it's a little different. There's more of a balance. You don't see them hiring as many gay lunar males in the droves to the point where people were like, oh, wow, why are they doing that? They're doing it to basically put a certain visual on brown men, to depreciate the virility that we should require with protective brown males. They are feminizing them, and if they aren't feminizing them, they are propaganding them with other women of other complexions to depreciate the connectivity that a brown woman and a brown man should naturally have. Okay, if you don't believe me, just watch television. You will get you'll see movies where back in the days, I'm a woman of a certain age, you used to only see brown women with brown men on all movies. They would nicely put a beautiful brown woman with a beautiful brown guy, and that would be part of the general consensus. Now on all television shows, all you see is brown men with lighter complected women as a general thing, because that's what they're propaganding, because they don't want that cohesion between brown women and brown men. And also they'll place very feminine brown men in all things, or they'll put them in skirts or make them act very belligerent. This is a way to create a certain narrative that is acceptable by society. So the standard of what a brown man has to, to become, acceptable is he can be any which way. Okay. Why is this important? Because I want to talk about how sex trafficking and also the molestation and the violation of children is all tied into this, all tied in the anti-female rhetoric, and all tied into the anti-female society that they're creating in order to omit the female and to create others who take on her role. It's almost like, it's almost like they're trying to create, if they can't be you, they're going to replace you. Okay. And then you get this whole new agenda with them, also, with Wade, what's his name? Wade, who has a gay son, and him stating that he's okay with going to a gay parade with his, is it Wade? Is it Wade? I think it was Wade. Was it Wade? I think he was can you guys, I know some of you, I was Wade, okay? So it was Wade, who, was it, okay, Magic Johnson's son as well, okay? Oh, Dwayne Wade, okay, so it's Dwayne Wade, who comes on national television in support of his son, and saying that he would take his 11-year-old boy to a gay pride parade. Now, let me state this as a New Yorker. Many of you, even our gay family, know on here. One thing I will say, I've been to gay pride parades. I've been to the Halloween parade in the Village. Many of us who grow up in New York know about this. A lot of our gay family participate in this. That is inappropriate. The things that one will see at a gay parade as an 11-year-old boy with men wearing, mock penises, men dressed very sexually. Men are very different sexually in the way that they express themselves, and females. A lot of very sexually explicit people engaged in very unhealthy relationships outwardly are all expressing themselves at these gay pride parades. So I think it's very interesting that Dwayne would take such a strong stance, especially as being a man who propels himself as a very, what is a virile man, a man who, who is a man who's supposed to, be a sports figure, okay, who's supposed to uphold himself. And we know that most men who are quote unquote very, strong and very manly, that isn't something that that a healthy father in that disposition would say. He would say, you know what, I would love my son regardless. That's a healthy disposition. A father who loves his son would say, you know what, I would love my son. I know my son. And he wouldn't at 11-year-old stigmatize his child as being gay male at that young. Children, and many of you remember, sexuality isn't necessarily something that is discovered at such a young age. Children go through transitions, they go through changes. In order to say that and stigmatize a child into that particular genre when he's probably just displaying maybe neutrality in his sexuality, that also shows that he is being paid by the reptilian overlords. He's probably going to have some sort of benefit from participating or saying that he wants to be a part of that community. I personally think that because of that, he is, Gabrielle Union is a thought. Don't get me on here because I'm going to go left. She's a thottery, okay? This is someone who slept with someone's husband. He had a college wife. She didn't have a I have, that, I went left. Let me go back. I can't, there's no good I can go when talking. I'm sorry. Gabrielle Union is not the staple of a woman talking natural. And also she had to get a surrogate because she's so diabolical, and the things that she's done to other women has played into even her biological way that she was unable to carry a child within her own womb. That is a karmic debt from you violating another woman's relationship and hurting a beautiful woman who was connected to a man from her youth, and thinking was okay because you're a star to go and sleep with someone else's husband. I'm sorry. I went left. I'm taking a moral stance on that one. I think it's abusive. Okay? I think when you do dirt, you get dirt. And that's why she had to go with she went through. So she's not a good staple to say that he's married to a healthy woman, because for that union to occur, there was a lot of dirt done. Okay? I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay. I went left. I went left. Let me keep on topic, and I want to keep stringent on my discussion. The reptilian agenda is doing these things because why people always say there's a gay agenda is they aren't realizing it's much deeper than that. It isn't about being gay. It's about being anti-female. You can be gay and be supportive and loving and honoring of the female component and the male component. So that's why you won't hear me say it's a gay agenda. You will always hear me say it's an anti-female agenda. I know gay men that don't hate women. I know gay women that don't hate men. I know gay people that aren't anti to heterosexual families. I know gay people that are very supportive of children and protective. So this isn't them I'm speaking of. I'm talking about the reptilian agenda and the propaganda that's proponing these type of sad, disgusting, deprived behaviors in order to generate a sick, savage society to violate women and children. Okay? So when we get into these placing certain types of males in dispositions of judgment and suppression, because it isn't natural for a society to take up all of the dispositions and all of the positions and leave zero or scraps for the female. Okay? Why is it that in the industry, to be the highest chef, it is a male, when we know that it is females that usually gather and nurture and cook? Why is it that the highest paid chefs are all males? Why is it that in the fashion industry that is mostly considered to be something that women obsess with, it is males that are the highest paid and the most heightened in judgment? And the women who are in those industries are anti to feminine too, because they tend to act like men, abusing and ostracizing and also subjugating women to the same egregious behaviors as some of the most domineering and most patriarchal males. Okay, so why do we see the highest paid doctors when we know that the medicine in all tribes, the medicine women were all mostly women? You rarely saw medicine men. Only time you saw medicine men was once in a while when the mother, the matriarchy, had trained her son because she didn't have a daughter. Okay, so why is it that in all dispositions of spirituality and things that women hold a natural disposition to carry the weight of that position in her society, that all of those tiers are held by males? Because you have a reptilian agenda to suppress and to abuse and to subjugate women in order, if they can't use your wombs as a gateway to bring more diabolical males into this life, then they will take your wombs like they are doing with all of these missing women that are showing up all over the planet without their organs. Okay? So that is not coming. And, listen, my sun stars, because all our divine males know this. I haven't known a divine male who's okay with hurting a woman. I haven't known a divine male who would ever leave his family and leave them unprotected or harm the mother of his children for any reason whatsoever. I haven't known a divine male who wouldn't let his life, the air, leave his lungs to protect his mother, his grandmother, his children, his tribe, his neighborhood. I haven't known a divine male who would be cohesive with hanging with a bunch of homeboys that are hurting and depreciating their wives or mother of their children, or even getting to the degree where they aren't upholding themselves to a healthy disposition to be a good role model for the very children that they're seeding on this earth. So if we're talking about how the agenda is propelling everyone in a specific direction that is starting to bleed over and show up in a grandiose way right now, it isn't. And that's why I say you have to take the gay out of it and peg it as an anti-feminine stance. There isn't a society who would believe in covering and putting drapes on women to cover them because of the lack of self-control and self-mastery that men have, that they're unable to even see a beautiful face, a beautiful woman, and have control over themselves in order to not to rape her or try to subjugate her. Okay, so we have a systemic problem on this planet, and it really comes from the male diaspora. The males are being utilized as an as a tool to hurt, subjugate, depreciate, and murder massive amount of women and children. If we look at who's doing the dirt on the planet, I can guarantee you we could sit here toe to toe and I could tell you how many women cut trees, but I can give you a hundred men on my counting myself that are murdering trees and not blinking an eye. I can go out right now and sit down in a pub anywhere and hear the massive amount of nasty comments that men will sit and say about their own spouses and women that they want to mate and partner with, or sit idly and complicit while other men depreciate and talk about the wives that they sleep in bed with, that they're promised to be the protectors of daily. We have a problem on our planet. We have a bunch of anti-males, anti-females. They will talk about us all day depreciating males, but if you need to give proof, you need to put it in numbers. How many women are going out killing men for jealousy or because they can't handle another man being with a woman that they already depreciated and abused? How many women are going out starting wars and end up killing grandmothers, pregnant women, children, or raping women that are virgins because they are animals and savages and get away with it for being someone else's land? How many women can you account for those behaviors? How many women are raping little children daily in their households and then sitting there and acting as if they are culpable or responsible for the damaged grown-ups that we have right now, destroying other families' lives because they haven't dealt with the trauma of being abused by their fathers, their cousins, their brothers, their uncles, their grandfathers? There are women who do dastardly things, but I can guarantee that every woman that does something dastardly comes from a patriarchal household where a man has damaged her, whether raping her, leaving leaving a mother damaged so that a child isn't protected in the household. This is a systemic problem. This is the reptilian agenda. I had to speak of this because I'm tired of the lack of the males in a pseudo-conscious community taking responsibility for what they do to their female counterparts in this sector. If I look at another video of these depreciative males online talking about being pillars of a society and of their people, but the very women that they sleep in bed with, they don't give a darn about, and half of them are verbally abusing them or utilizing their status on social media to lure other women so that they can further solidify their depreciative behavior and subjugate more women to abuses of their wands. We've started to realize that maybe the problem isn't the gay men or women, it is those males that are anti to the very nature of the planet that they coexist on. Mothers, please start to raise your boys. I don't have a boy yet. I would gladly be sure to make sure that I am included in this conversation if I'm ever so blessed to have a little boy. But mothers, please make sure that you are rearing little boys that have love for self. And if the very fathers that you created those children from or with are heinous and narcissists and savages and aren't capable of helping and assisting you, you take the priority and the disposition to set up shop so that you be the best role model and you accrue those divine males wherever you so find them to be a good example for your young, beautiful sons to see and emulate. This has been the war, family. We don't talk about the secret war. It shouldn't be a secret anymore. There is an anti-feminine component on this planet. And the reason why she's suffering, the reason why there are fires on this planet, the reason why there are children being murdered and raped and killed is because we aren't speaking about the very nature of an anti-species on this planet that is destroying us and our children. We can't allow for them to get away with it anymore. This needs to be something that is put on Front Street so it isn't hidden behind closed doors saying, oh, it's the government. Oh, it's the CEOs. Who's heading these companies but diabolical dark males who are perpetuating the same reptilian agenda that many of the males on the lower tiers are just disseminating and just following unconsciously. It has to stop. And if I see another person, now let me state this. This is one thing that I will do. I see all of these anti-female. Hold on. I see all of these anti-female pseudo-conscious males online pretending like they like us, pretending that they're here to protect us. But these men, all they care about is sticking their wands in pretty women online or talking so much or studying so much. All these scholars, all these pseudo-scholars talking about their conscious. If you heard how many of these bastards were having orgies with young women that like them and respect them and give themselves to these men because they think that they're smart and that they have their best interests, it would bother you. If you listen to how many of these spiritual men, these so-called pseudo-spiritual, so-called love and light communities, where you have these men taking these dispositions that they meditate all day, they eat vegan, and meanwhile, they're hurting and molesting their own children. Or interrupt my feed. Hold on. Okay, sorry. And one thing I will say, I'm unapologetic about this. I'm unapologetic about this. When I got information about what they were doing to these young men in the prison system, it pissed me off. Why it pisses me off? Because you'll say, Flurban, why do you care about the young men in the prison systems? I should. because a lot of them look like me. And why that bothers me is because I've been so privileged, and I'm grateful for that, to sit in tears with people, lunar children, lunar young males in their households with their beautiful parents, who do exactly the same things, if not worse, as young boys, smoking weed, doing other illicit drugs, getting in fights every once in a while, but they're allotted to go to bed in their warm beds, in their beautiful homes, and wake up another day free and clear. While brown boys who do exactly the same thing, to the same degree, end up getting thrown in prison systems and being violated by grown non-human males who are violating their anal cavities and disrupting these men's peace of mind and sending these young boys out to be savages and sending them amongst us to violate us when they were normal, healthy boys, when they entered, and they come out as savages when they get out. That's a problem to me. And I know that the reason why I feel it necessary to speak to this is because we have to be more accountable for what we support, who we support, and the things that we do in our own households. I can only change what I do within my household, what I do with myself and my own family, and I can share that with you, and I say you can do the same. But it's time that we step it up, because I'll see different feeds. People send me a quantified amount of things. I don't get to watch everything. I really don't. But one thing I do is when I get a chance to look at certain things and I see, young mothers online and them yelling at their young boys, or them depreciating their sons while they're online talking to you on YouTube, or the neglect that I can notably see with, mothers who take really good care of themselves and their children are seen as lesser, and the children are depreciative or not as cared for, but the parents take a very selfish, selfish disposition. It's really sad. And then I see the lineage, the online lineage of people who like the video, who support these people, who rah-rah for them. And then you say to yourself, how are you going to come to me and say, oh, I think it's disgusting what's going on, when you're supporting people who damage their own children? We can't be idle anymore and just walk around on tight lines, not choosing sides or being neutral to people that aren't in cohesion of healthiness or unity consciousness or abuses, and think that's okay. I would expect that any male that I sit and talk with wouldn't be okay sitting in a conversation with his homeboys talking about how they're cheating on their wives, how they're flirting with women, how they're hiding money from their wives at the depreciation of the very daughters, sons they have at home, and the women that they chose to marry and have union with or choose to mate with. We have to just take a higher road, including myself. It's time. And if you aren't about that agenda, then be in cohesion with being outside of that perpetuation that they're sending out here and emitting in unhealthy ways. It isn't natural for men to in the droves to be anti to females. That is unnatural. They're being chemicalized, they're being MK Ultra'd, and they're also being depreciated by social cues that are giving them motivation for not liking or being anti to females. And for those males, like egregious males who are sleeping with women 30, 25 years, 30 years, they're like women sleeping with men that are 20, 30 years their senior, and that being something that family members or people out here think is okay. I could care less that he has a lot of money. It isn't natural for a grown man to sleep with a woman that could be his child. It isn't natural. It's okay for him to be attracted to that, but because he has money, now he has access to females in a way that isn't natural. So let me read some of your comments. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for coming on so strong. I just was disgusted about the prison. The prisons, that bothered me. You know, if anything that bothered me, I had an issue with that. I'm tired of seeing young males being pushed in a prison system that's perpetuating something that's going to damage them long term. And once you open Pandora's box, you know, then there's a problem. Family, it isn't natural for men to be anti-feminine. It isn't natural. It isn't natural for the majority of brown men to show up now that aren't sleeping with brown women. That isn't natural. That means that something has messed with them. The natural state of any species is to mate with its own species and to mate with the opposite counterpart, meaning that females are to mate with males, males mate with females. That is the nature of the society to perpetuate itself. When there is sometimes you'll get enigmas or you'll get anomalies. That happens in every part of nature. But when you have it to the heightened and unhealthy degree, you have to know there's been an influence that is anti-nature, okay? Males should want to mate with females. If they are doing opposite in the droves, it means that something is influencing them to be anti-female, okay? That is a problem. Because in the nature of male and female, a male has to put his wand in a hole. If he is truly a gay male, he would not want to put his wand in a hole because there wouldn't be a hole to do that with. Okay? If that's what he is. Sex is between the equal and opposite sex. That's all it is. If he's doing that, it means that he's been incepted or violated or depreciated or influenced or chemicalized. We have a problem. And we have a problem with this propaganda going on that it is becoming what is considered to be normal, a standard, and it is incorrect. As someone who's a researcher and has worked in heredity and genetics, I know for a fact that when you have enigmas like this showing up in the heightened degree, it means that something's wrong societal-wise, and it means that this society is about to collapse. Because whenever that starts to show up, it usually means that something is about to destroy a society. Whether it's cataclysm, usually it's environmentally. If you see them in animals, then it means the society is about to collapse, or the ecosystem is off. But why is this placed on single mothers? Single mother, well, no. Listen to what I said. The women, this is what I'm saying. Let's make sure we aren't attacking females. Females create children, and we ultimately have say in how things show up, okay? We're the end-all be-all because we're the mothers. We're the ones who give life. I don't care who wants to mimic us. I don't care who wants to take on that female status. Unless you were born a woman, unless you have a womb, unless you have a menses every month, that's what makes you a female, okay? That's what makes you a female. So that being said, a woman has the ultimate say over her offspring. But if she's traumatized, if she's coerced in unhealthy scenarios with males that aren't there to protect or to provide, then she's left to fend for herself. And in a society where there's a stigma that's attached to women that are mothering children by themselves, there's going to be some sort of subliminal, insecurity with that. And then there's a perpetuation of that. There isn't anything. All healthy, the strongest animals insist mother their children with just the mother. So to say the word single mothers, that comes from the patriarchy giving a stigma to something he created. Okay? He created that. There wasn't anything as single mothers. The original primordial woman gave birth through the process of parthenogenesis. Only a female was rearing children. So that stigma is attached by unhealthy, disrupts the whole feed. So I apologize. It's nothing diabolical today. Okay? I think, where did I end? I don't know that I ended anywhere. Triggers and guides. Where did I end? Where did I end the conversation? I forgot where did I end the conversation? Okay. Let's see. I'm going to try to catch up where I was. Brainwash vapors are easily fishing for susceptible. YouTube 7 days. Okay. Okay, so I think I ended up saying that a lot of time. Oh, single mothers. Okay, this is what I have to say. I think that's one of the stigmas that people throw out there to depreciate a woman. But what I will say to you, like I said, all the strongest animals on this planet are mothers. It isn't required to necessarily have a man. That's why there's all these princess stories to perpetually make you require a man in your mind. Like, oh, you need Prince Charming. You're unable to protect yourself. A healthy woman will be a healthy mother to both male and female. The problem is that you have a lot of traumatized women who are ending up having to sustain households with both children and having a difficult time because they've been traumatized. And they need more of a village connection, more of a village assistance. Okay, so I disagree with people stigmatizing so-called single women. That isn't in my verbiage. Not even just because I was married for a long period of time. I had children after I got married. It does not, I know women that are unhealthy, that are in marital dispositions who are horrific mothers. And I know some of the most amazing women that are mothering just on their own. So that's not a contingency on whether somebody's a positive person and so on. It's very personable, okay? But there's a stigma attached to it because they want you to create codependency on the concept of keeping an unhealthy male around so he can further traumatize you and your children. If you are in a relationship where you have a savage in your household, by all means, I think you would be better off raising your beautiful children on your own with peace of mind. That's a fact. And yes, there's different societies who have different criteria that they project, okay? And there are certain parts in the Middle East that I've seen. Now, this is the crazy part because they'll perpetuate that all relationships in the Middle East with our women who are Muslim is negative. That isn't true. But there is a projection in Muslim culture to have women seem subjugated and passive and with non-power. But I've actually witnessed Muslim women. That's why I say we got to be careful with others' narratives or with projections that aren't real. I've been in Muslim households with Saudi women and women from Jordan who have just as many privileges, if not more, who are healthy, who are balanced, who are respected. So that's a concept that's perpetuated by a narrative that Willy Wonka wants you to think, so that you see women have subjected. Now, there are parts of society, Muslim society, where yes, women are subjugated, women are limited, as far as, what they can do or how they're treated. But that can be said in this society as well. There are Christian households where, and also, you have some of the more, fanatical Christian households where you have men who are subjecting the women to mind control and suppression. So it happens in every arena. So we can't just lump it all together. The only general consensus I can say, and globally, is that there is an anti-woman reptilian agenda. The majority of men are being promoted to hate their female counterparts or subject them to forms of depreciation or misogyny. The music is doing it. You can listen to the music. Now, I will say this. Let me not lump that together either. Let me state this. I will listen to songs that are made primarily by brown people. This is why I say, brown people, you need to step it up and be more accountable for the music that you put out there. You're saying that women are thoughts and that they don't care about themselves and they're using men, but by the music that you listen to and you perpetuate by creating, you're creating music that is perpetuating the same behavior that you're complaining about. When I listen to lunar males sing songs and their music, I don't see, and this is being honest, lunar males, I'm not hearing as much subjectivity. Some of their music, I'm hearing them talking about loving a woman, giving him his all, being dedicated to his family, she's hurting him. So why in lunar music, when I hear males talk about their females, they aren't subjugating them as much. They're not talking reckless about how they're going to smash them, how they're going to have their sister, their mother sleeping with them in one bed. They do that occasionally, but it's not to the same degree as I'm hearing hip hop music, which has been incepted by draconians. Because when hip hop music was positive, talking about righteousness, listen, you already know I'm a hip hop head. So this is no shade to hip hop. That is my primary listening go-to. Y'all should know that because you know me. So you already know that hip hop is my end all be all. I grew up in hip hop and I love it. And I grew up on healthy hip hop, talking about, societal things that they wanted to change, having love and connection, having crushes on girls, having more connectivity. That's what hip hop was when I started, having house parties. Half these hip hop songs, people are so high and drugged up on all kinds of mollies and drugs. I don't know what kind of drugs they're doing. They're high, talking about getting high on coke and all kinds of things, and then talking about having non-connective sex with the females as if they're dogs. So it's a totally different dynamics that we're talking about. And yes, culture does influence how people accept it, but I'm talking specifically and directly to, as far as the music industry, is to brown music. Mostly brown, even in Jamaica. Big up to all my brethren in the West Indies. It used to be that we would wine pon, you dance, and it was dancehall. Now you have this music in Jamaica where the men are beating up the women when they're dancing with them. Do you see that trend? Like they're jumping on top of them, nearly breaking their necks, taking the women, picking them up and smashing them on the floor. When did that become part of the culture, a West Indian culture? Jamaican men were very loving and doting, and if not, very sexually piloted. Why are they abusing and throwing women on the floor and doing like abusive dances with them? That wasn't part of the antics before. Why has why is that even part of the societal cues now? I'm just saying, I've seen it from all angles, and I'm grateful to be on this earth for long enough to be able to see what it was and what it is. But usually a society steps it up. They don't usually depreciate. Even the English language, back when hip hop came out, people could make a haiku. They had it was urban poetry. You could hear the lingual, play of words. It came from integrity and intelligence. Now you can make a hip hop album and not even have a grasp of the English language. I could just tell you I'm walking to the park, put a beat behind it, and that's a rap song. And I could be high while I'm doing it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Cardi B has become, like, people, even when somebody said to me, she's like high, I was like, what? I was like, you like hip hop? They were like, yeah, she's the baddest thing. I was like, she can't even talk. She isn't even writing her own rhymes. If you had to stand with Cardi B and say, yo, let's go off the rip. We got beef. Let's go off the rip. She couldn't do it because she isn't an artist. So I'm just saying, there's an agenda here to depreciate, to deplete, to degrade, and to omit the divine feminine on this planet. We're coming back. So this conversation will be more receptive than years ago. Years ago, there would have been a whole bunch of brown males coming on here saying, you show your breasts all the time, Fleur Brune. You're always trying to sexualize yourself. Let me talk to that. If I appear sexy to you, it's because you think of me as sexy. That has nothing, how you feel about me has nothing to do with me. I'm not here trying to sexualize myself. I just so happen to be shaped a certain way, and I appreciate and love myself. I'm a mother. I haven't been reckless out here with several men. There are men talking about how they've had wild nights with Fleur Brune, because that hasn't been the case. I was married for almost 20 years. So if that's the case that you feel that way, it's because you have a lack of discernment. And if you think that I'm over-sexualized, all you have to do is turn on your headbuds and turn the camera down. That's called discernment. So if you think that what I say has credence and credit, by all means, you don't have to look at me. You could just listen to me and then take away the critical concept of what I'm wearing. Because in my world, wearing a sundress or having your breasts somewhat showing, I'm bustier. If I was a flatter chest woman and I showed the middle of my chest, you wouldn't have a problem with it because you wouldn't see cleavage. Unfortunately for some, I have a lot of it. Fortunately for me, I'm okay with it. That's what I'm saying. We have a lot of, back in the days, you would have a lot of males that would come for me saying, you're objectifying yourself. How am I objectifying myself? By talking about aliens online and about how we're being subjected and how to make things better? That isn't true. Oh, it's okay to show breasts. Apparently, like I said, the way I'm shaped is a little different. So of course, if I do the same as my girlfriends, it may look worse, maybe, or better. I don't know. It may look a certain way, but it's not intended. It really isn't. And I look very feminine. I'm a very feminine looking female. Okay, that's just to add it. So, no, men aren't being reared with self-restraint and self-control. There isn't a sense of, a lot of males have a lack of self-restraint. There are some, and there are women who, let me state this, there are women who have, there are women who have lack of self-restraint and lack of self-control. I got to keep it real on both sides. But when we see the majority of women being violated sexually and children being raped by mostly, I didn't say only, notice my words, I said mostly, because women are harming children as well. Women are raping children as well. Women are harming men as well. Let me state that. There are women who are doing that. But when I talk about numbers, numbers matter. The ratio matters. When we're talking about the ratio of men to women raping children, 90% of men rape children. 10% are women. Okay? 10%. You can look that up. It may have gone up or down, give or take like 5% or 2%. But the majority of women that are being raped or confiscated or sex trafficked are being sex trafficked by men. Now, one thing I will say is that there are women out here who are mind-controlled bots who are heading some of these groups or being party to it, so they help to lure some of these women. But if we took the ratio again, the majority would be 85% to 15% of women. Okay? And someone was talking about the gay ratio. Somebody brought up numbers, because we're all about numbers nowadays, because you have a lot of people on here who will justify having anal sex. That is not gay sex. Let me state that again. Anal sex is not equated to gay sex. There are gay women on here who don't have anal sex. I don't like that people, when I talk about that being unnatural, it is unnatural to enter into an anal cavity that is meant for defecation. To even normalize that shows mental illness. That isn't normal for anyone to want to enter into a cavity that expels. That isn't natural. I don't care how you flip it. I don't care how there's an agenda to support it. That's why a lot of people have a lot of sicknesses. And that's how a lot of diseases were able to be permissible to people, because blood barriers were being bursted by entering into a zone that isn't for entry, it's for exit only. Okay, so you won't be able to convince me of that. That is not a gay participating factor, because I know straight people who have anal sex. I know gay men who have anal sex. It isn't just gay men though, so it's not a gay issue. Anal sex isn't natural. It isn't. And I made a whole thing on gay and why they violate children like that too. So they kind of hijack the serpent mind. That's a reptilian behavior. That isn't natural. Okay, so y'all could go all day toe to toe with me on that. And there was a census when people were talking about, animals have sex with, same-sex behavior. Yes, that happens. Let me state this again. Yes, it happens, but it isn't to the same degree. If we had same-sex engagement all the time, there would not be a society. So it isn't something that is an enigma and that is an anomaly, and it shows up in certain species and certain animals due to societal traumas, geographical traumas, changes in weather patterns, things that have to do with human inception. If we go back to before, when we have, if we go back a little further, when we have a little bit of the remnants of the bones and everything, that was not necessarily the general consensus of animals, because there was less inception by chemicalizing or putting leaching of, trimethoprim into the soil. A lot of these behaviors come from traumatizing factors in the environment. Okay, so when animals engage in same-sex behavior, it's because there was a geographical change that offset their hormonal balance, or there was something that changed the ratio of male to females, where they start to engage in that for not having enough quantified of the opposite sex. Please don't play with semantics with me. okay? Because there's a lot of people in society that will make justifications of their behavior based on bringing up anomalies and making that as a staple for, you know, the truth that they're existing. You can do whatever you want. How I have sex in my household may not even be human to some of you, but that's me as an adult participating with another adult. That's why I say it's not a gay issue. It is a human issue. It's an anti-female issue. Okay? Just engage as you will, but there isn't any justification of what is natural and what isn't. That's just a fact. And I won't be a party to getting into a narrative that I know is reptilian. Oh gosh, this conversation has everyone's texting me. All right, family, I think I probably pissed off. I pissed off enough people today. So I just wanted to discuss this, and this is just to bring up, listen, I'm okay with your opinions. Y'all could, you know, one thing with me, because you know I'm a New Yorker, I love when you bring up your opinion matters to me. It's always good. How I feel isn't necessarily how you feel, but I know personally that there's a reptilian agenda, and if you don't know it, then you should just look out in society and see how the ratio of how men are treating women and how that's showing up right now, or the depreciation of women's self-esteem, where they're showing up, you know, anti-nature in themselves because they're being traumatized by lack of connectivity to their male counterparts, okay? Whether trauma by father, trauma by being raped, trauma by being neglected by their mothers who were beat by their fathers, it all ties into an anti-female consensus. So I say, you know, the only way we can change is we talk about it, we could be about it. If we can't change what we don't acknowledge, we need to be better to our female counterparts. Fathers, it doesn't matter if you're with a mother or not. Your children should see you as a wonderful pillar of self-esteem, of good, healthy standards. You should be the number one male that she strives to be in her life. And if you aren't being that role model, you failed as a father. You failed as a sperm donor. You failed as a healthy component on this planet. When you seed a woman, you should seed her with good intent. And if those beautiful babies come to fruition, that is a gift that some people can't do. So that being said, start being better to your mothers, to their children, start being more present fathers, especially for little girls that will grow up to be women that distribute that pain through having males that hate women, okay? You are creating this by the nature of you neglecting your families. And mothers, love yourself enough to stand alone and know that you are quantified and qualified to raise healthy offspring on your own. Be the change you want to see in the world. You as a mother, as a matron, as a beautiful representation of divine feminine, have everything required to raise healthy males and females. If there is a male who isn't quantified to be healthy in your children's lives, you stand like a lioness, like a leopard, like a mama bear, and you raise those beautiful cubs to the best of your ability with love and discernment. And I promise you, your children will show up healthier than some families who have two-parent homes. Okay? So let me go, family. Hopefully this was helpful. You know, it at least will stimulate conversation. Stay out of the reptilian agenda. Do better, be better, and for myself too, we got to get it together. All right? I love you, family, and we'll chat again. All right? Peace.